The Delari exploration fleet moved slowly along the edge of a glowing nebula. Their ships were alive, grown, not built, soft and graceful, with surfaces that pulsed like breathing skin. Streams of blue light ran through them, carrying power and life. Commander Tak sat in the command seat of the flagship Luminous Harmony, his 6 hands resting calmly, his eyes reflecting the nebula's color. It was a normal day in exploration, until the sensors screamed. "Unknown vessel detected," said Navigator June, her voice sharp. "Coordinates 557 to 882. No identification found." Tak's many-faceted eyes focused on the main display. Out there, half hidden behind dust clouds, floated something dark, something unnatural. The ship was angular, metallic, and wounded. Its hull was blackened by what looked like burns and weapon scars. Even through the distance, it gave off an aura of danger. Science Officer Mi tilted her head. "Commander, no match in any of our records." "It's not one of ours. Not any known race," Tak's voice stayed calm. "Any transmissions?" "None, sir. Silent." The Luminous Harmony drifted closer, careful and cautious. Around them, the rest of the fleet held formation, their bioorganic hulls glowing softly like drifting jellyfish in the dark. In contrast, that alien ship looked like a shard of broken armor, a predator surrounded by gentle creatures. "Power down all weapons," Tak ordered. "Begin first contact protocols. Send greetings on all frequencies." A soft pulse left their ship, a bright wave of light carrying words of peace. One by one, Delari ships followed, sending messages in a dozen languages. But there was no answer, only silence. The alien ship did not move, did not reply. Minutes passed. The bridge grew tense. Then suddenly, a single tone echoed through their communications array. It was deep, human, steady. "Greetings, Delari fleet. This is Captain Kim of the HSS Dauntless. We represent humanity. From the planet Earth." The words echoed across the bridge. "Humanity?" Tak whispered. No one had ever heard that name. Navigator June checked the archive again. No entry. "Unknown species, unknown world." Tak's inner membranes fluttered with excitement. This was something new, something completely unknown. "Respond," Tak ordered. "Welcome them. Express our peaceful intentions." The reply came quickly. On the main screen, the image of the alien captain appeared. The human stood upright on 2 limbs, tall but soft-looking. 2 small eyes, smooth skin. A strange artificial covering, gray and blue, with symbols printed across the chest. Its expression was calm, but its eyes carried weight. "Thank you for your welcome, Commander Tak," said Captain Kim. "We are explorers. We didn't expect to find intelligent life here." "It's a fortunate meeting, Science Officer." Mi leaned closer and whispered, "Their ship's structure is strange. Primitive, using combustion metals and nuclear elements. No quantum drives. Yet they traveled 30 light years to reach here." Tak frowned. "Impossible. Even a Delari fleet with the fastest drives took weeks to cross that distance. If the humans didn't have quantum travel, how did they get here?" "Captain Kim," Tak said carefully, "perhaps we could exchange information about our species. Knowledge leads to friendship." "An admirable thought," said Kim with a polite smile. "We will share what we can. But I must contact my superiors before arranging a meeting." "Of course," Tak replied. As they waited, Science Officer Mi ran deep scans. "Commander," she whispered, "their ship design makes no sense. Multiple internal reinforcements, redundant systems everywhere, and those battle scars, they're not random. They're from weapons fire." Tak's skin changed color, a sign of worry. "You're certain?" "Yes, Commander. But it's strange. The weapons are off now, but they're far more advanced than the rest of the ship. It's like their entire design evolved for one purpose: survival in battle." Tak looked again at the Dauntless on the screen. Half their size, half their speed. Yet the air around it felt heavy, predatory. "Commander," said Navigator June, "incoming message." The humans wished to speak again. The display flickered. Captain Kim appeared once more. But this time there were more humans behind her. Officers, engineers, security. They stood straight, calm, disciplined. Even through the screen, the Delari could feel it. A quiet strength. "Commander Tak," Captain Kim said, "Earth Command has authorized a meeting. We invite you and your delegation to board the Dauntless for face-to-face contact. We believe understanding grows faster in person." Tak hesitated. Your hospitality honors us, Captain. We will prepare at once. We will adjust our atmosphere for your biology, Kim replied. You'll find our ship comfortable. As the transmission ended, First Officer Bin turned to Tak. Commander, are you sure? We know very little about them. Their technology, their motives. Tak's skin shimmered in thoughtful colors. That is why we must go. The Great Archive teaches, fear of the unknown leads to conflict, Science Officer Mi added softly. Their weapons may be deactivated, but that ship, it was built for war. Tak looked again at the display. The Dauntless floated quietly against the glowing gas of the nebula, scarred but proud, like a wolf among sheep. Its hull reflected the dying light of stars. Prepare the delegation, Tak said finally. Myself, Science Officer Mi, Cultural Specialist Du, and 2 security officers. We will meet them. The shuttle detached from the luminous harmony, gliding through clouds of silver dust. Behind them, the Delari fleet waited, nervous, silent, watching. Ahead, the human ship grew larger. Its black armor was dented and burned, patched with mismatched plates and exposed metal. Every mark told a story. As the shuttle approached, the human docking bay opened slowly, like the jaws of a beast welcoming prey. Inside, lights flickered. Human shapes moved in the haze, and at the end of the docking corridor stood Captain Kim, calm, waiting. When the airlock opened, the smell of metal and oil filled the Delari shuttle. Captain Kim stepped forward, extended a single arm. Welcome aboard the Dauntless, Commander Tak, she said. I hope your journey was comfortable. Tak imitated her movement, offering his own greeting posture. But instead of mirroring it, Kim grasped his limb firmly, a handshake. The pressure was strong, controlled. Her skin was fragile, but the grip was not. Science Officer Mi blinked, her colors shifting in confusion. Humans were small, soft, weak-looking, yet somehow they gave off an aura of confidence, like they had survived things no one else had. Captain Kim gestured toward the corridor. Please, follow me. There's much to discuss. Tak glanced once at the scarred hull around them, the lights flickering on old panels. Every sound in the human ship felt alive, not like the luminous harmony's soft heartbeats, but like something wounded that refused to die. As the Delari delegation stepped forward, Tak felt a strange sensation, part curiosity, part fear. What kind of world builds explorers that carry the scars of war? What kind of species turns survival itself into a weapon? He did not know the answer, but he was about to find out. The Delari delegation stepped carefully into the corridor of the human ship, HSS Dauntless. The air was breathable, dry, metallic, slightly heavier than what they were used to. It smelled of oil, heat, and something older, like the memory of fire. Captain Kim led them down a narrow passage, lit by strips of harsh white lights. The walls were grey metal, scratched, patched, and reinforced. Nothing was graceful. Everything was functional. Commander Tak walked beside her, flanked by Science Officer Mi, Cultural Specialist Du, and 2 silent security guards. They passed thick blast doors, control panels with worn keys, and emergency hatches sealed shut with burn marks near the hinges. This section, said Captain Kim, pointing to the scorched wall, took a direct hit during the Arcturus campaign. Lost part of the engineering deck. Sealed it off, reinforced, and kept going. Tak paused, surprised. You continued your mission. After damage like this? Kim looked back, her expression calm. Of course. That's what we do. We adapt, we rebuild, we endure. Science Officer Mi exchanged glances with Du. The Delari avoided combat whenever possible. A strike that destroyed part of their ship would have meant retreat, maybe even surrender. But these humans, they wore battle damage like medals. They reached a long corridor where one section of the wall looked newer, smoother. Rellan destroyer, Kim explained, brushing her hand against it, broke through our shielding. We lost 17 crew here. The delegation went quiet. You lost so many, whispered Du, and still continued your mission? Kim nodded like it was normal. That's what humans do, she repeated. We move forward, even when it hurts. The corridor ended at a simple metal door that slid open to reveal a room filled with small metallic tags, pictures and names engraved on smooth plates. Our memorial wall, said Kim softly. Tak's eyes scanned the wall. Hundreds of tags, some old, some recent. We carry our dead with us, Kim said. Everywhere we go. For the first time, Tak saw a new side of these humans, not just tough, but wounded, grieving, and still standing. They continued through the ship. The next stop was the engineering deck, and it was unlike anything the Delari had seen. Massive cables ran along the floor. Steam hissed from valves. The heart of the Dauntless beat loud and angry. At the center stood a glowing machine, pulsing red with heat. "This," said Chief Engineer Park, patting the massive machine, "is the beast. She's temperamental. But she's never failed us." Science Officer Me blinked. "You power your ship with a reactor this unstable?" "She's dangerous, sure," Park replied, grinning. "But she's reliable. She kept running even when we pushed her to 120% during the Den B retreat." Cultural Specialist Du whispered, "Why not use cleaner technology? Safer designs?" "Because we don't always have a choice," said Kim. "Sometimes survival means pushing things past their limit." Their next stop, the armory. Security Chief Dow opened the doors, revealing rows of weapons, rifles, blasters, melee tools, and explosives. Some looked new. Others looked like they'd seen entire wars. Every Delari froze. The Delari didn't carry weapons on their ships, at least not openly. And they'd never seen such a variety of tools designed only for one purpose: combat. Du looked uncomfortable. "All of this for defense?" Dow raised an eyebrow. "Every crew member is trained in basic combat. Even medics. For exploration?" Me asked. "In our experience," Dow said quietly, "yes." Tak studied their faces. Calm, not aggressive. But there was a readiness in their eyes. Like they had seen enough war to never let their guard drop again. Finally. The delegation entered the medical bay. It was small, clean, efficient. Dr. Jin, the human medical officer, greeted them with a tired smile. "We don't have advanced regeneration tech like some species, but we've made do. Necessity," she added, "is a powerful motivator. The equipment was primitive, but clever, adapted, rebuilt again and again. It wasn't pretty, but it worked." Tak realized something strange. The Dauntless didn't look like it was built this way. It looked like it had survived this way. Every hallway, every system, every crew member wounded, but functional, weakened, but still strong. At last they returned to the bridge. It was smaller than expected, tight, efficient. No wasted space. Every console, every screen, every switch had a purpose. An officer announced, "Captain on the bridge." Everyone straightened. Kim gave a small nod. "At ease." She turned to the Delari. "This is where decisions are made." Tak looked around. The crew was calm, focused. Many had scars, old or recent. But they all carried themselves with discipline. As if chaos was normal. "It is impressive," Tak said carefully. "Efficient. But I must ask, Captain, why does a species build exploration vessels like this? So heavily armed, so battle-ready?" The bridge fell silent. Kim stood still for a moment before answering. "Commander Tak," she said, "Earth's history is long, and often violent. When we reached for the stars, we carried that history with us. We learned early on the galaxy is not always friendly, so we built ships like the Dauntless, not to start wars, but to survive them." Back in the conference room, refreshments were laid out, carefully matched to Delari biology. Captain Kim raised a small silver cup. "To new friendships," she said. "To peaceful exploration of space." Tak lifted his own cup slowly. On the wall behind Kim, a screen displayed a view of Earth, a blue and green world, spinning quietly in the dark. "It looks peaceful," Tak whispered. Kim's smile faded slightly. "It is set now, but it wasn't always. And maybe that's why we built ships like this, to make sure it stays peaceful." Tak stared at the image of Earth, so fragile, so small, and yet the species that came from it had learned how to fight gods. The Delari delegation walked slowly through the human vessel Dauntless, each step revealing more contradictions. It was a ship built by a species that should have never survived the stars, and yet they had. Commander Tak had seen many vessels across his 60 cycles of exploration, but nothing like this. No harmony, no elegance, just layers upon layers of reinforced metal, redundant wiring and scars from past battles. Yet somehow, it all worked. "Commander," whispered Science Officer Me, pausing beside a structural column, "this ship wasn't designed for space efficiency. It was built to take hits. She touched the metal wall. Underneath the surface, her scans showed triple hull layers, blast-suppressing gel and shock-displacing frames. "Who builds an exploration ship to survive direct impact from weapons?" she whispered. "Humans," Tak replied softly. "Apparently." They entered another corridor lined with exposed wiring and wall panels clearly retrofitted. Chief Engineer Park, walking proudly beside them, noticed their expressions. "She's not the prettiest," he said with a grin, "but she's tough." Cultural Specialist Du asked carefully, "Your people, do they prefer utility over comfort?" Park shrugged. "Comfort doesn't save you when a plasma round tears through your deck." He pointed to the ceiling. "We had luxury once. First-generation ships didn't last long." Du blinked. "So this brutal design is by choice." "By experience," Park corrected. As they walked, Security Chief Dow led them past a sealed section with a red warning sign. "Critical systems beyond here," he said. "Still under repair." The door itself was dented inward, the clear mark of an external strike. Mi scanned it discreetly. "Fusion-level blast. But your ship still functions?" Dow smiled faintly. "We've taken worse." Tak's skin rippled in silent shock. The Dauntless had survived hits that would have destroyed 3 Delari vessels. Later, in a crew observation bay, the Delari were introduced to several human officers. The space was small, lined with metal benches, personal lockers, and holographic displays showing star maps, fleet routes, and combat simulations. Mi watched a simulation play out, a squad of human Marines defending a damaged base against overwhelming enemy forces. They didn't retreat. They fought to the last second, brutal, direct, efficient. She turned to Cultural Specialist Du and whispered, "They prepare for battle as if it's guaranteed. Not a possibility, a certainty." At a break in the tour, Captain Kim brought the delegation to a small circular meeting room. Walls displayed images of Earth's history, some beautiful, others terrifying. There were pictures of ancient wars, skyscrapers, bombed cities, spaceships lifting off from craters, children smiling in the rubble. And at the center, an image of Earth from space. "Our story," Kim said, gesturing, "is one of mistakes and survival." Du studied a photo showing a burning city with aircraft overhead. "Why preserve such painful memories?" she asked. Kim looked at it for a long moment. "So we never forget what happens when peace is taken for granted." Later, during a quiet moment in a utility room, Mi approached Kim directly. "Captain, may I ask something personal?" Kim gave a slight nod. "You speak often of surviving, rebuilding, but what do your people value most? Is it strength? Victory?" Kim smiled, genuinely this time. "We value continuing. Through pain, through fear, through loss. We don't fight to win. We fight because we don't want to stop moving forward." Mi fell silent. She had never heard it phrased like that. Not conquest, not dominance, just refusal to fall. In a side corridor, Du stopped to look at a mural painted directly onto the metal wall. It showed a human hand reaching towards stars, bloody, bruised, but unbroken. Above it, a single phrase was scratched in English: "We climbed anyway." Later, on the way back to the conference room, Tak paused to look out one of the ship's narrow windows. Outside, the glowing nebula lit the Dauntless in soft reds and purples. Behind them, the Delari fleet hovered, graceful, unarmed, beautiful. But somehow, the wounded ship beside them felt more alive. "I still don't understand them," Mi whispered beside him. "Neither do I," Tak replied. "But I think—" "They carry more than weapons." "They carry stories," she nodded. "And pain. And hope," he added. The human ship creaked as they walked, each groan of metal telling a different memory. Back in the conference room, the humans had prepared a brief cultural presentation. But Captain Kim spoke before they began. "Commander Tak, our worlds are different, our methods even more so. But let me be clear. We don't seek war, we just refuse to let it break us." Tak looked around the room. The scars, the stories, the silence between the words, and he began to understand. The Dauntless felt alive around them. Its corridors hummed with quiet purpose. Metal groaned softly, as if remembering battles long past. Commander Tak and his Delari delegation followed Captain Kim toward a lower section of the ship. The air felt thicker here, filled with the scent of metal, fuel, and something faintly electric. The humans walked with natural ease, but the Delari delegation moved carefully, their membranes flickering uneasy colors. "This section is restricted on most ships," Kim said. "But you asked to understand who we are. You'll find the answer here." The door ahead opened with a hydraulic hiss. Inside was the armory. Rows upon rows of metallic racks filled the room. Each rack held weapons, some compact, others massive, all marked with human symbols and serial codes. The walls were lined with crates, sealed containers, and worn armor plates. Some carried scratches, burns, even dried black stains. Every weapon seemed designed not for beauty, but for one thing: survival through destruction. The Delari delegation froze at the threshold. Their kind had no such rooms. Their ships carried small defensive tools. But nothing like this. "Every crew member is trained in basic combat," said Security Chief Dow, who stood near the weapon racks, checking inventory with a calm expression. "Even our medical staff." Science Officer Mi blinked, voice soft. "You are medics?" Dow looked up, unbothered. "War doesn't ask if you're ready. We make sure we are." Cultural Specialist Du approached one of the weapons, long black, shaped for precision. "What is this one?" Dow glanced over. Mark 7 pulse rifle, mid-range, designed for hull breach combat. Du stepped back quickly, feeling uneasy. "You keep such weapons?" "On an exploration ship." Dow smirked faintly. "Exploration doesn't mean unarmed." Captain Kim's voice broke the silence. "You see weapons," she said quietly. "We see insurance. The galaxy isn't as kind as we wish it was. When we meet new life, we hope for peace. But we prepare for the opposite." Tak studied her face, calm, controlled. But beneath her tone, he heard something else. Experience. "How often," Tak asked slowly, "does conflict follow your discovery?" Kim's eyes flicked toward the floor. "More often than we'd like to admit." Dow pressed a button on a nearby console. A holographic display flickered to life, showing recordings of previous engagements. The footage showed the Dauntless under fire, its shields burning red, multiple enemy vessels closing in. The ship returned fire, its weapons bright arcs of plasma that tore through darkness like lightning. Every shot was deliberate, controlled, not rage, not chaos, just survival. The Delari delegation watched in stunned silence. They had seen military data before, but not like this. This was not conquest. This was endurance made visible. When the footage ended, Du spoke first. "I have studied hundreds of spacefaring cultures," she said softly. "None carry war into exploration. None wear loss so openly." "Why, you?" Kim looked toward her first officer, then back to Tak. "Because," she said, "peace never came easy for us." They left the armory and moved toward the training hall. Inside, several human crew members practiced close combat drills. They moved with speed and coordination that shocked the Delari. Their bodies, though fragile by Delari standards, reacted with precision and adaptability. Every motion was calculated, a language written in reflex and muscle memory. Du whispered to me, "They train as if they expect war every day." Mi nodded. Perhaps for them, peace is the preparation. In the center of the hall, a young officer stumbled mid-drill. He recovered quickly, earning a nod from Dow. "Discipline," said Kim quietly. "That's how we survive fear." Tak observed everything. The structure, the rhythm, the silent intensity that filled the room. These humans were not merely soldiers. They were prepared survivors. He finally spoke, his voice low. "You fear the galaxy, but you do not run from it." Kim nodded. "No, because if we run, something else pays the price." They continued to the tactical operations room, where large holomaps displayed regions of space. Several dots blinked red, marked hostile zones. Others were marked contact lost. "Our mission," Kim explained, "is exploration and diplomacy. But we travel through old war zones, pirates, remnants of fallen empires. We go where others refuse to go." Tak's voice was filled with quiet disbelief. "And you send one ship for that?" Kim smiled faintly. "We have others. But the Dauntless, she's the one that never turns back." In one corner of the tactical room stood another memorial. Not metal tags this time, but helmets and badges. Burned, cracked, still carrying traces of soot. Above them, a phrase was carved in English: "Peace through strength, strength through sacrifice." Cultural Specialist Du translated it aloud in Delari tongue, her voice trembling. "It sounds paradoxical." Kim turned toward her. "It is. That's what makes it real. Later, in the conference room once again, refreshments were brought. The Delari tasted carefully. Their nervous systems reacted softly to the new chemistry, but the flavor was balanced, simple, thoughtful. "Your hospitality is generous," Tak said politely. "Especially from a people who prepare for battle." Kim gave a quiet smile. "We've learned that kindness is most powerful when it comes from those who know what unkindness feels like." Tak considered her words for a long moment. In Delari history, peace had always been their natural state. They had never earned it. They had never needed to fight for it. But humans had forged it, bled for it, built armor around it. He looked at her again, at the dark eyes that carried both exhaustion and defiance. "Your people," Tak said softly, "have turned survival into a philosophy." Kim nodded once. "And peace into a weapon." That line hung in the air, sharp, cold, and true. Outside the window, the nebula's colors shifted slowly, red fading into violet, like bruises healing across the stars. The Dauntless remained steady in its orbit beside the Delari fleet, calm but alert. Even silent, it looked ready, as if war itself had taught it to breathe. For the first time in his life, Commander Tak realized that peace alone could never protect a world. Only the will to fight for it could, and the humans had mastered that art. The lift doors opened with a low hum, and the Delari delegation stepped into the bridge of the HSS Dauntless. It was smaller than the command decks of Delari vessels, cramped, practical, every surface filled with glowing panels and busy hands. Yet there was something powerful about it. The air itself carried purpose. Captain Kim walked ahead, her posture straight, her tone calm but commanding. "Welcome to the heart of the Dauntless, Commander Tak," she said. "This is where every decision begins and ends." Humans moved at their stations in a rhythm that felt almost military, yet effortless. Every console, every motion had meaning. Tak's many-faceted eyes swept across the bridge. He expected chaos. He found discipline instead. "Captain on the bridge," called out a young officer. The entire crew straightened, eyes forward. "At ease," said Kim softly. And like a single living machine, they all returned to their work. Science Officer Me whispered to Tak, "Such precision. It's unnatural for an uncoordinated species." "Not unnatural," Tak replied quietly. "Learned." A soft light blinked across the room. Status updates, tactical displays, shield integrity logs, power flow charts. Everything about the Dauntless was focused on efficiency. No unnecessary decoration. No comfort zones. It was as if this ship had been designed by people who expected to live under fire. And yet, it was beautiful in its own way. "Captain Kim," Tak said carefully, "I notice your bridge is much smaller than our own, yet it seems more functional." Kim smiled faintly. "Delari ships are art, Commander. Ours are tools. Every centimeter here has to earn its place." She gestured to the helm. "This ship once operated with half this crew. We run lean. When the hull burns, when systems die, when the silence gets too loud, the ones still breathing take over every post." The words hung heavy in the air. Tak looked at her, trying to see whether it was pride or sorrow in her eyes. He wasn't sure. On one screen, a live image appeared, a slow rotation of a blue-green planet, Earth, the home of these strange beings. It was smaller than Tak expected. So fragile, so vulnerable. He spoke softly, almost to himself. "Your world looks peaceful." Kim followed his gaze. Her voice softened. "It is now. But it wasn't always." The Delari delegation moved closer to the window. Through the transparent viewing pane, they saw the distant glow of stars, the endless stretch of darkness that separated every world. The human officers continued their duties quietly. No one wasted words, no one relaxed. Du, the cultural specialist, turned to Kim. "You and your people carry peace like it's something that could break." Kim gave a tired smile. "Because it can. And it has. Many times." Science Officer Me moved closer to the tactical console. "These readings," she said, her voice uneasy, "they track possible threats across the sector?" "Yes," Kim replied. "Asteroids, pirates, radiation storms, old battle remnants. Anything that can hurt us. And your crew is ready to respond to all of that?" Kim nodded. "We have to be." A young human officer looked up from his console. "Captain," he said quietly, "we've detected a radiation surge in the nebula's edge. Might just be a decay burst. Log it, said Kim without looking. Prepare shields just in case. The entire crew moved at once, no shouting, no panic, just silent coordination. Within seconds, the ship's power flow adjusted. The hum beneath their feet changed pitch. Then, just as quickly, everything returned to normal. Tak was impressed. Your crew functions as if they share one mind. Kim looked around her bridge with pride. We share something stronger than that, Commander. We share loss. That silenced the room. Even her own officers paused for a moment. She continued, her tone softer now, more human. Every person here has lost someone. On Earth, in the colonies, in the wars we no longer speak about. But every time we lose someone, we learn. We adapt, we carry their lessons. That's how humanity survives. Science officer. Me studied her carefully. You build ships that can take punishment. You train crews that never stop moving. You carry the memories of your fallen into space. Yet you claim to be explorers. Kim met her gaze. We are explorers, me. But exploration doesn't always mean peace. Sometimes to find peace, you have to survive everything that isn't. Commander Tak felt something shift inside him. He had always believed knowledge and peace went hand in hand, that war was the mark of lesser species. But these humans, they blurred the line. They were both builders and warriors, scientists and soldiers, healers and destroyers. And somehow, they balanced it. Kim turned to Tak again. You wanted to understand why our ships are armed, why our bridges are ready for battle. It's simple. She pointed at the screen showing Earth. The blue world turned slowly, sunlight washing across it. Because that's home. And every time someone tries to take it from us, we make sure it never happens again. Tak looked at the image for a long time. The soft glow of oceans, the white clouds swirling like dreams. He had never seen a planet look both so gentle and so fiercely protected. After a long silence, he said quietly, perhaps peace and strength are not opposites after all. Kim smiled faintly. Now you're starting to understand us. As they left the bridge, the humans saluted their captain in silent respect. The Delari delegation followed through the narrow halls once more, quiet and thoughtful. Science Officer Me whispered, Commander, I think I finally understand why their ship feels alive. Tak turned his head. Why? Because, she said, it's not a vessel. It's a promise. Back on the bridge, Captain Kim watched the Delari shuttle depart. Her first officer approached quietly. They seemed peaceful enough. You think they'll report what they saw accurately? Kim stared out the window at the glowing Delari fleet. Her voice was calm. They'll report what they can understand. The rest, they'll feel. Outside, the nebula shimmered with distant lightning. The Dauntless drifted forward, silent and scarred, a lone survivor among stars. The Delari shuttle waited in the docking bay. But Commander Tak and his team did not leave right away. Something about the Dauntless pulled them back, an invisible gravity that wasn't made of mass or metal, but of mystery. They had seen its scars, its weapons, its endless discipline, but there was something more here, something hidden beneath the armor, something human. Captain Kim led them through a quieter section of the ship. The lights were dimmer here, the sounds softer. This is where our off-duty crew rest, she said. If you truly want to understand us, you should see what we're like when the battles end. The Delari delegation followed her into a room filled with floating holograms and soft music. It wasn't a command post or a training hall, just a place for the humans to breathe. Small objects floated on the walls. Pictures, old flags, faded fabric patches. Each piece told a story. Science Officer Me noticed that most items were damaged, burned or torn. Yet the humans had kept them. Cultural Specialist Du touched a small metallic coin fixed to the wall. These are memories? She asked. Kim nodded. Pieces of the people we've lost. Their things. Their stories. The Delari looked around the room in silence. On their ships, the dead were remembered by the archive. Recorded, catalogued, and stored. But here humans carried grief in their hands, in their hearts. They built altars out of metal and ash, and called them remembrance. A soft voice spoke from the corner. It was Chief Engineer Park, his hands still stained with oil. Commander Tak, he said quietly, do your people remember the ones they lose? Tak hesitated. We do, through data and history. Park nodded. We remember through scars. He pointed at his arm where a faint burn marked his skin. Lost my best friend on Procyon Station. Reactor fire. Shall I keep this scar to remember how he pushed me out of the blast door? Science officer. Me looked away, her skin flickering blue with discomfort. Your species holds on to pain. Park gave a faint smile. Pain reminds us we were alive. Later, Captain Kim led them into the observation deck. The nebula outside stretched endlessly, colors shifting like a living painting. The Delari delegation stood quietly as the stars reflected on their translucent skin. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Du asked softly, "Why keep exploring? You've seen war, you've lost so many. Why not stay safe? Stay home?" Kim's answer came like a whisper, but it carried the weight of galaxies. Because if we stop exploring, the ones who died stop meaning something. She turned to face them, her eyes steady. Every loss we carry pushes us forward. Every scar tells us where not to fall again. We go on because stopping would make the pain meaningless. Tak listened in silence. His mind couldn't process such a philosophy. In Delari culture, pain was avoided. Fear was managed. Peace was preserved through harmony, not confrontation. But these humans, they had learned to forge peace from suffering, to turn grief into motion. He finally said, "You turn tragedy into strength." Kim nodded. "That's the only way we know how to survive." As they stood there, a low alarm pulsed across the deck. A human officer's voice echoed from the intercom. "Captain, long-range scanners detect a flare near the outer nebula rim. Could be a debris storm." "Understood," Kim replied calmly. "Bring shields online. Maintain position." The entire ship seemed to awaken, crew moving swiftly but silently, the ship's lights dimming, power shifting toward defense systems. It was second nature to them. Danger didn't create fear here. It created focus. The flare passed. The alarm quieted. The humans resumed their work like nothing happened. The Delari delegation, however, could still feel the tension humming in the walls. The Dauntless never relaxed. It never trusted silence. Me turned to Kim. "You live like every day could be your last." Kim looked at her. "Because one day will be, and when it comes, we'll meet it standing." They continued down another corridor. Tak noticed small etched words scratched into the metal near every door. Not machine markings, handwritten ones. "Never again. For Arcturus. We endure." They were not decorations. They were vows. Cultural specialist Du touched one of the inscriptions gently. "You write reminders of pain on your walls." Kim smiled faintly. "No, we write promises." At last they reached the command lounge, where Kim stopped and turned toward the Delari commander. "You've seen our weapons, our scars, our history. But what you haven't seen, Commander, is what keeps us going. It's not power. It's not fear. It's memory." She gestured toward a panel on the wall and pressed it. The lights dimmed, and a soft holographic display filled the room. It showed hundreds of faces, men, women, children, all smiling. "The crew of the first Dauntless," Kim explained, "destroyed during the early wars. This ship carries their name and their purpose." Tak's voice was quiet. "And what purpose is that, Captain?" Kim's gaze didn't waver. "To make sure their story never repeats." The Delari delegation was silent. No translation software was needed to understand the emotion behind her words. This was not the language of conquest or pride. It was human will, that strange, unbreakable thing that refused to die even when everything else did. Science Officer Me whispered to Tak, "They are so fragile. Yet they carry the weight of entire civilizations." Tak nodded slowly. "Maybe fragility is what makes them strong." Kim turned back to the nebula window. Stars reflected off her uniform like shards of silver. "You see steel, Commander," she said quietly. "But beneath it, there are hearts that never stopped beating, even after everything." The Delari delegation finally returned to their shuttle. As the airlock sealed behind them, silence filled the cabin. They didn't speak for a long time. Each of them stared through the window at the dark, scarred ship. The human vessel floated in the nebula's light, quiet, watchful, indestructible. Cultural specialist Du broke the silence. "They call it the Dauntless," she whispered. "It means what?" Tak answered softly. "It means those who never give up." The Delari shuttle detached from the Dauntless, gliding silently through the glowing edge of the nebula. Behind it, the human ship drifted like a shadow against the stars, scarred, dark, and impossibly alive. Inside the shuttle, Commander Tak sat in silence, staring through the viewport. His hands rested on the console, but his thoughts were elsewhere. He could still hear Captain Kim's words echoing in his mind. "You see steel, Commander, but beneath it, there are hearts that never stopped beating." The Delari had traveled across hundreds of systems, met dozens of alien civilizations, but nothing had ever left them feeling this way. Not fear, not admiration, something deeper, understanding. When the shuttle docked back with the luminous Harmony, the crew awaited their commander with quiet anticipation. The bridge lights dimmed as Tak and his team stepped through the airlock. Science Officer Mi carried the recorded data. Cultural Specialist Du clutched a small human token, a metal coin given to her by Captain Kim for remembrance. They all looked changed. First Officer Bin stepped forward. "Commander, what did you learn?" Tak looked out the window at the Dauntless, still hovering peacefully near their fleet. He spoke softly. "Everything. And nothing we expected." The senior officers gathered around the main display. The human ship appeared in holographic projection, tiny compared to the vast Delari vessels, yet somehow commanding all attention. Its hull still bore burn marks from past battles. Its signal pulsed steadily, calm, patient, confident. Du began the report. "Their species calls itself humanity, their homeworld Earth. By their own words, they have survived endless conflict, both among themselves and from others. Their technology is uneven, primitive in parts, but astonishingly resilient. They build for survival, not beauty." She hesitated, then added, "And their captain speaks of peace, yet carries the weight of war like a shadow." "War?" asked First Officer Bin, his voice uneasy. "Do they seek it?" Tak shook his head. "No, they fear it, but they understand it too well to pretend it doesn't exist." Science Officer Mi spoke next. "Commander, their culture is unlike ours. They value endurance above all things. Even their language reflects it. Every phrase, every story, they are obsessed with continuing even after loss." "Obsessed?" Bin frowned. "That sounds dangerous." Mi met his gaze. "Perhaps. Or perhaps it's what keeps them alive." The council chamber fell silent. The holographic projection of the Dauntless rotated slowly in the air. Bin finally asked, "Do you believe they are a threat, Commander?" Tak's eyes glowed faintly under the soft light. He thought for a long time before answering. "No," he said. "They are a warning." The room stirred with whispers. "A warning?" Du repeated. Tak nodded slowly. "Yes, to every world that believes peace is permanent. To every race that forgets what struggle means. To every civilization that grows comfortable and blind." He looked again at the image of the human ship, still holding its position near the nebula's rim, waiting, patient. "They are not here to conquer. They are here to remind the galaxy what survival costs." Outside, the Dauntless sent a transmission. The voice of Captain Kim filled the chamber once more, calm, measured, and strangely comforting. "Commander Tak, this is Captain Kim. We thank you for your hospitality and your willingness to learn. Our mission will continue deeper into the Persean expanse. If fate allows, our paths will cross again. Until then, may your skies remain peaceful." Tak responded quietly, "And may yours remain safe." Kim smiled faintly through the holoscreen. "Safe? We'll manage. We always do." Dauntless out, the signal faded. The human ship began to move, its engines flaring bright for a moment before fading into the violet mist. Within minutes it was gone, swallowed by the nebula's light. The bridge was silent. Du whispered, "Commander, do you think we'll ever see them again?" Tak didn't answer right away. He looked out at the empty space where the Dauntless had vanished. The nebula glowed faintly, colors rippling like a living thing. Finally he said, "Perhaps. But even if we don't, the memory of them will stay." Mi turned toward him. "Because of their strength?" He shook his head. "Because of their hearts." Later that night, in his private quarters, Tak began his report for the Great Archive, the Delari's record of new species. He sat before the glowing interface, and his words appeared in blue light across the air. Entry Species 13 Humanity, Homeworld Earth, Classification Enduring Species. Description: Bipeds of limited physical ability but extraordinary emotional resilience. Their vessels are built for endurance, their minds for adaptation. They speak of peace, but they prepare for war. They suffer deeply, yet they rise without fail. Humanity does not seek dominance, but neither do they kneel. He paused, his eyes flickering with thought. Then slowly he added one final line. Recommendation. Approach with respect. For when the stars burn out and the nebulae fade, it will not be the strongest who endure. It will be the humans the message was sent. The record sealed. Outside the ship, the nebula's light dimmed to a deep blue. The Dauntless was long gone, just a memory among stars. But somewhere far beyond sight, its engines still burned against the dark, carrying Earth's legacy deeper into the unknown. And across the Delari fleet, one thought echoed among them all. They call themselves explorers, but what they truly are survivors.